Hello everyone. Today I'm going to explain about functions in PHP in a super simple way. And before we learn about the functions, we need to first understand what is the need of function. Why do we even need it? The process of transforming a large application into a single program leads to several complications such as inefficient memory, or difficult to understand and debugging, etc. These complications can be avoided by using the concept of functions, and generally an application is broken down into smaller tasks and function may be developed for each of these tasks. So in some situations there are certain types of operations which need to be repeated at some points throughout the program. For example, if we take the sum of two numbers, then then maybe this sum is required in many parts of the program, and if we write the same program code in all the parts of the program, then it will keep repeating again and again. Then the best approach is to write a function called as sum and call this function whenever it is required. This also saves time and space, right? So let's take an example program and see how it works. So here is an example of it where you can see the difference between the PHP code without the function and the PHP code with the function. So here for adding two numbers, we are writing the code again and again in without function code, but here with function code it enhances the readability and it is also useful for faster development. It also reduces the line of code functions. It will reduce the duplications of code within the program, and if a specific operation needs to be performed in several places in a program, then a function can be written once to perform that operation and then be executed any number of times. This is the major benefit of using functions, and it is also known as code reusability, these kind of functions. And it is also easy to test, debug, and then maintain everything. So if we talk about the main definition of the function, it is a function is a collection of statements which is grouped together and that performs a specific task, or it returns a value also, or an operation. And a large program, for example, a larger program is divided into basic building blocks called as functions. And in programming, the use of function is one of the means to achieve modularity and reusability. So these are the things to know about the functions. And then in PHP, a function in PHP is a block of code that it has a name. For example, we have taken an example here, like it has a name and it can do something, which means it can do, like it can perform a specific task and optionally return a value as well. Like there are different kinds of writing this, call by value, call by reference, and as well as a function which returns a value and a function which has parameters, etc. But this function has parameters and it returns a value as well. And then it can optionally return a value. There are some major advantages written over here, which I also mentioned earlier. It is easy to read and understand. As we also saw in the example, there were we saw in this example there were less number of codes and it was easy to understand this program compared to this one. And a program's code seems to be very simpler and easier to understand when it is broken down into functions like this. And code reusability also is there, easy to test, debug, and maintain, faster development, and reduce it code. These are all some of the main advantages of functions. So how this program basically works is, Here it we have taken a function add, and we have given two values for it, which we are calling outside the function, and this output of this thing will be stored in result, will be stored inside the result. And this runs the function and returns 8. I mean, this thing runs the function and returns the output as 8, and this will basically store the output which we have got from here. And so, yeah, echo statement will print the result. And so further moving on to the next topic, that is call by value and call by reference. In PHP, there are the function arguments can be passed by value or by reference. Understanding the difference between these two methods is important for writing efficient and effective code, right? So here the call by value basically creates a copy of the argument's value, or we can also say as variables value. And while call by reference passes a reference to the original, the call by reference passes the reference to the original variable. And call by reference can be more efficient for large data structures, but it can also lead to some unexpected changes to the original value of the argument. We can see the examples first to better understand the concept of call by value and call by reference. So if we see the example of this is basically an example for call by value. And when a function argument is passed by the value, when a function argument is passed, and a copy of the argument's value is created and passed to the function, which means that any changes that are made to the argument within the function do not affect the original value of the argument outside the function. So if we have given the value as 5, uh, for example, if we have given the value as 5 outside the function, and if we try to change it here, like if we try to increment it or something, and the value again will print the same as 5, because this is a call by value thing, right? It like it basically any changes that we do with the argument within the function, like within the function, which will not affect the original value of the argument outside the function. So that is the main thing about call by value. Let's just run and see this program, where it will give us the output as 6 and 5. The 6 is coming from here, where we have called the increment function, where it is doing its we have called the increment function, where it is doing its thing like incrementing the number. And the output is and the output is for the value, when we have given it as 5, we have incremented it and got as 6, and then we have printed again the same value which we had given here before, as 5. So first it has printed as 6 for this one, and it has printed as 5 for this one, which basically means that whatever the functionalities that are going on inside the function, and if we also try to print it again after printing its like changed value, if we try to print the same value again, it will give the value which it was like it will give us the value which we had given to it before, which is 5. Let's just add some space between these two, because we can see the output uh, that we have got. So yeah, that is all about the call by value. And when we talk about call by reference, so call by reference basically has a ampersand operator right here, and you can see it in the parameters. Right here we'll give an
ampersand sign. And in this example, the function increment takes an argument. In this example, the function increment, so this function increment takes the argument $num by reference using the ampersand symbol, and the variable which is this one, the variable value, this basically is assigned to the value 5, and then the function increment is called with the value itself, the dollar value, and the function returns the value 6, as you can see here, and the original value of dollar value is also changed to 6. So I hope you guys have understood. So in a call by reference where we use an ampersand, basically that is the only change, and then the function argument is passed by a reference, and a reference to the original variable is passed to the function. any changes any changes that are made to the argument within the function affect the original value of the argument outside the function as well. Which means whatever the changes we make inside the function, it will affect the value in the outside function also. For example, in the previous example that we saw, if we changed the functionalities inside the function, outside it didn't affect anything. But in the call by reference, if we try to, like, if we change the value inside or outside anywhere, it will definitely affect the original value of the argument outside the function as well. So if we see the output, we have changed the value to 6 here in inside the function, and so the output, uh, the it just takes the original value and changes it to 6 by itself. So that is the major difference between the call by value as well as the call by reference. I hope you guys understood about this. So if we just see some points, some major differentiated points of call by value and reference.